In our last session, we have mentioned about vocabulary. The essential requisite to have an effective communication, of course, is vocabulary. What is vocabulary? Let us think what vocabulary is. Of course, the first meaning of the word vocabulary is all the words of the language. Vocabulary, by the word vocabulary, we mean that the whole group of words in a language is meant by the word vocabulary. What is the second meaning? Vocabulary is a sum of words used by or understood by or at the command of a particular person. You understand? This is the meaning which is most important as far as we are concerned. As far as the spoken ability of a person is concerned, his own stock of words is most important. So we take this meaning for granted. What is the next meaning of the word vocabulary? A supply of expressive means, a repertoire of communication, a dancer's vocabulary of movements. A vocabulary of a software engineer is sometimes of the knowledge about his techniques. So we call software's vocabulary of techniques. That's another meaning, you understand. So the fourth meaning is a list of words and often phrases usually arranged alphabetically and defined or translated. This also is the meaning of the word vocabulary. I request you to master the pronunciation style of the word vocabulary also. How we pronounce it? Vocabulary. Vocabulary. Someone pronounce it?
Vocabulary.
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 Louder please.
Vocabulary.
Vocabulary. Come on, Subhash.
Vocabulary.
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 The stress is on k sound, the second syllable. So we have to pronounce the word as vocabulary. And just pronounce this word
Often.
Open your mouth for the sound ah in our vernacular language and say the O in our vernacular language. That is the easiest technique to master this sound of English. Ah. Once again. Often. Okay. Anyway, we'll come back to the first word, vocabulary. We are today spending our time to improve our vocabulary. Vocabulary, how to build it up? How can we, what are the measures we can resort to improve our word power or vocabulary? That's what we are thinking of. And of course, we are in the exercise of enriching our word power. Word power is another word for vocabulary. So whenever you think of vocabulary, think of your own word power. If you don't have a stock of enough words, if you don't know the correct way of pronouncing each word, if you don't know the right space where you can use that word, there is no chance of an effective communication. You may stumble for words whenever you want to communicate something. So let us take the exercise of enriching our word power. The techniques which we have to go for is 1. Second. Third.
Talking.
Talk aloud. Talk whenever you can. Okay, first thing is read this paragraph. We will do a small exercise, very simple exercise. This is from today's newspaper, The Hindu. We'll read this paragraph. Now read this paragraph. Please, while you read this paragraph, you have to underline all the difficult words. I have given you a paper, printout of the news, and you can underline every difficult word there. Words and phrases as you go have to be underlined, whichever are the difficult words. Yeah, of course. Now, this is a reading exercise. The news says that 5 men found guilty of Australian terror plot. This paragraph is taken from today's Hindu. You read it along with me. 5 men were convicted on Friday of plotting a terrorist attack by stockpiling bomb-making instructions and purchasing explosive chemicals in Australia's largest terrorist conspiracy. A jury deliberated for a month before finding men guilty of conspiring to commit acts in preparation for a terrorist attack. Each faced a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. Continue. Which began in November 2008. Prosecutor Richard Bateman told the jury in New South Wales State Supreme Court that the men planned to use explosive devices or firearms to commit extreme violence in a bid to force Australia's government to change its policy on Middle East conflicts. Justice Anthony Wheely restricted the media from publishing the men's names on the internet. The men were arrested in a series of raids on their homes in 2005. Many men said during the trial that the raids turned up bomb-making instructions, including footage of planes flying into the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001, and images of beheadings. The prosecutor also said the men purchased explosive chemicals and guns between July 2004 and November 2005. The jury was also told one man participated in a terrorist-run paramilitary training camp in Pakistan, and 3 others attended civilian camps in New South Wales to prepare for an attack. We had instructed the jury to put aside prejudices when coming to its verdict and to remember that Muslim faith was not on trial. Of course, another paper also has covered the same news but in a slightly different way. Let us read that also. Read this paragraph, and haven't you underlined the difficult words?
Yeah.
Of course. We'll go to the next slide.
Next.
Now we'll read another paragraph, the same piece of news as it is reported by the BBC. Sydney terror suspects convicted. 5 men have been found guilty in Sydney, Australia, of conspiring to commit terrorist attacks. A jury deliberated for 23 days before convicting them on charges including possessing chemicals for explosive and instructions to make bombs. The maximum sentence for the offences is life in prison. Prosecutors said the men were arrested in the raids on their homes in 2005 and planned to commit violence to alter Australia's policy on the Middle East. There were angry citizens outside the Decide court in Parramatta as supporters of the convicted men scuffled with members of the press. Paramilitary camp. The trial began in November 2008 and lasted more than 170 days. Prosecutor Richard Bateman told the jury the defendants were planning to commit extreme violence and trying to change Australian foreign policy. Mr. Bateman has said they were motivated to pursue what they probably saw as religious cause, that is, that of jihad. The specific targets of attack were revealed. The names of the men cannot be given for legal reasons. They showed little emotion here the verdict and were remanded in custody on 14th December. The raids on the homes yielded terror-related material. Prosecutors said the BBC's Nick Graham in Sydney says the men were arrested 4 years ago following tip-offs from hardware stores and the gun shop owners, whose suspicions were raised when the men started to order unusually high amounts of chemicals and guns. Prosecutors said one defendant had attended a training camp in Pakistan of the Chelembra group and had served for a paramilitary style camp in New South Wales to train 3 of the other men. Justice Anthony Wheely praised the jury for their diligence and integrity.